Welcome, everyone. It's Fierce Female Friday. It's been a few since I've been with you all. I'm so incredibly grateful to be with you here and on our final Fierce Female Friday of the first half of the year, because we are going on summer break after this. As you know, we love to know where you are watching from. Oh, I see Nikki is here. Oh, and Brittany. We've got a lot of Engel Völkers fans in the house because, of course, as all of you saw in the promotion, we have the magnificent Anthony Hitt with us today. However, before we get into our conversation, we have a couple of WomanUP updates. So for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Deborah Trapin. I wear many hats in this life, but one of my favorites, as you all know, is the Chief Strategist for WomanUP, which is a California Association of Realtors initiative. I get to partner with the fab Sarah Sudachan and our team of wave makers and amazing staff to bring this movement to life. Now, the last couple years, we've been doing everything like this, Zoom, talking heads. However, August 30th, we are together again. We are going to be in Huntington Beach, August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. We've already sold 50%, a little over 50% of our tickets for the conference. So do not wait. This is an intimate space. We do not have room to extend additional tickets. So make sure to get your conference tickets, make sure to get your room and get set. Once you've got your tickets, you will get a link to get your the reservations for the rooms. There is a very small block of rooms there. So if you want to go to the Paseo, you want to stay at that hotel, hang out in that gorgeous spa, get on it. A quick teaser, exciting news. We did just get confirmation this week that the NAR president this year, Ms. Leslie Ruda-Smith, is joining us as one of our keynote speakers. So we are so excited to have her. We also have put in a request to have a few more of the amazing women on her leadership team join us. So stay tuned for more details. To get all of that and more, just head on over to IamWomanUp.com. Wave Makers update. So the applications closed last month and our new group of wave makers is getting connected to each other and getting all set up. So we'll be sharing more about them next week. If you missed the deadline, do not fret. We will have plenty of ways to get you involved and help keeping us making waves, right? Right, Sandra? You know the drill. As all of you know, if you've attended any of our shows this year, you know we love the off the record segment at the very end. That's our after the show. We turn off the recording. We ask Anthony some rapid fire questions. And and we really want you to hang out, hear what makes Anthony hopeful. And so make sure you stay to the end so that you hear that. If you know somebody who wants to make sure they hear what's going on in Anthony's life, send them the IamWomanUp.com/live link right now so they can join us today and not miss a thing. Teased about it a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but we are on summer break for sure. It's time for the team to take a little bit of a break. Staff is heading on vacation. We're heads down getting some details together for the national conference. So make sure that you join the Facebook group because we are doing a summer replay series over there for you. We're going to host a bunch of the episodes we've had this year, just in case you missed one. So take a peek over on the Facebook group so that you don't miss a thing. All right, so I'd love for you to all help me welcome my fabulous surprise special co-host, the fabulous Ms. Sandra Miller. Rounds of applause. For those of you who don't know Sandra, why don't you share a couple things about yourself that you want the world to know here?
Well, let's see. I think I'm a proud supporter of WomanUP and a current year wave maker again. Sorry. I was first Engel Völkers franchise owner in Southern California in 2009. And my fun fact for the day that probably no one knows on this call is Anthony was someone I viewed as a competitor when I first started in 2004. And I even copied his open house signs.
I really wish we knew what those look like. So maybe we can get one of those and drop it on the Facebook group because now I'm very, very curious what that looked like.
I probably have a picture of his because I seriously copied it. I used red though. His were blue. Even back then, ENV didn't exist, but I was a red person. So
yeah, she was red ahead of her time.
I love it. Well, yes, Sandra's been was really, like, seriously writing checks from the very beginning, in the room with us, was part of the very first Wavemaker group, has applied every single year, and of course been part of our community since the very beginning. She has introduced us to amazing humans at Engel and Völkers. We hope to have a good number at the conference, not only in the audience, but also sharing their stories in some of our Shine a Light panel and conversations. So we are so grateful for you, Sandra. Now
right back at you.
let's share a little bit about Mr. Hitt. So for those of you who may follow him on Instagram, you may have seen a little bit about his behind the scenes, but this is his Instagram 140. So from Missouri to EV Americas, CEO based in New York City, traveling the world, biking when I can, working with amazing people, loving Sean, and living my dream. I love this Instagram profile. Okay, now quick excerpt from the LinkedIn profile. Anthony Hitt has served as Chief Executive Officer of Engel Völkers Americas since January of 2014. Anthony has been personally involved in the Engel Völkers emergence in the United States since 2010, when the Hamburg-based real estate leader tapped him to establish its presence within California. Yay! Engel Völkers is known as a leading destination for highly selective real estate service with unique international accessibility, and looks to Anthony's leadership for its continued growth and success. Now with almost 300 shops and over 5,000 real estate advisors spanning the United States, Canada, and Mexico. As a top producing agent himself for many years, Anthony was continually acknowledged for his business acumen and commitment to customer satisfaction by publications such as the Wall Street Journal and the Los Angeles Times. Prior to joining ENV, Anthony worked with Sotheby's International Realty, part of the Anywhere family now, in Los Angeles for 8 years and closed approximately 400 real estate transactions in that time, amounting to nearly $500 million. Woo! LA Magazine named Anthony one of the city's super agents, and LA Business Journal awarded him their first and only Green Agent of the Year award. Wow, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me. And I think thanks to Caitlin and our marketing team, I think I've got an updated bio. It sounds really good. I like the way it sounds. So
it does sound good.
As you were reading, I'm like, I don't think I've read this yet. I guess I should read these more often.
It's good to have a team that takes care of you, right?
They take good care of me. There's no doubt about that. And before we go any further about Sandra, she was talking about, of course, mine was blue because I was with Sotheby's. That's part of the reason mine was blue. She was ahead of her time. But I've said many times that, Sandra is a fierce competitor on Fierce Women Friday. That makes sense, but a fierce competitor in the market. And the way she took me out is she actually introduced me to this brand and got me out of selling real estate. So she got a competitor off the field right there in her market. But if it wasn't for Sandra, I would not be part of Engel and Völkers, and I wouldn't have come into the position I'm in today. So big fan of Sandra's as well. And again, love the fierce competitiveness that said, yeah, I know how to take him out. We'll just get him a job in corporate and he'll be out of here. So,
oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good because we have had Sandra on the show a few times and her competitor comes out.
Oh yeah, no, I know it well. I know it well. But we were very fortunate. We were in the same market without question. Sandra was already working the high end of the market. I definitely worked more of a middle range market. So we rarely would compete. As a matter of fact, Sandra sent me a few referrals of clients that were not quite up to her standards back in the day that I was happy to take from her. But no, competitors in the same market, but the reality was we were friends from the very beginning.
I love that. It's like compassionate competitiveness.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
I
that.
like that a lot. Maybe we've just coined something there. Maybe that's the name of a new book. Okay, so we love hearing origin stories here. And we were talking a little bit in the green room before that we do not hear many CEO stories in the real estate space where you started as an agent. So I would love for the community to hear your leadership story, kind of sprinkle in just the high points for you along your journey.
Well, I will say, first of all, and I don't want to take the entire, yesterday, we have Primera as a private equity firm now behind us. And one of the way they get to know a lot of their leaders is they put us through this, assessment program. And so yesterday I did a 5-hour interview with one of their assessment people.
Right.
So I just felt like I went down the whole memory lane yesterday. We started at birth and worked up to my birthday last week. But that being said, I think my origin story is not like many, is like most people in this business. Very few of us in real estate started with the idea, when I grow up, I want to be a realtor. I want to be someone who's selling real estate. Most of us had another plan, another idea, and then life happened, and we found ourselves with an opportunity to get into this business. Maybe we'd always had a dream that we would do it if things worked out a certain way. And we ended up here. That's the same with me. I always say I was born an entrepreneur. I think franchising was part of my blood. I remember a story my mother used to tell that I had my first, Kool-Aid stand when I was, 5 or 6. But instead of just one Kool-Aid stand, I had one on all 4 corners of the block that I lived on, and had my friends. So we had 4 at once instead of just one. And my big goal back in those days was to be old enough that I could cross the street so I could expand my business to other blocks. Along the way, though, I had a direct mail company, I had an advertising agency, I had a telemarketing firm, I worked in training and speaking, and all of those things led up to me being the CEO of a .com back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which seemed like a really good idea. I was hanging around the people who started Yahoo and Peapod and a lot of Google and the others. Their product was one that resonated, and capital came into. My product was one that got bought out by those guys, and I found myself in Santa Monica working for a capital company, trying to help other entrepreneurs build their .coms in early 2001. If we look back, early 2001 was not the best time to be in .com. That's when the whole .com bomb went off. But I just bought a condo in Santa Monica on Ocean Avenue. We loved living there. We're from the Midwest originally. And the idea of, we just bought the property, and the agent who represented us was #1 in the area. And he was a horrible person. I mean, just to be very frank, he was a horrible person. I thought, if you can be #1 and not be a good agent and not be a good person, what if someone actually practiced the ideas of writing a business plan and doing market research and putting their client's interest first? And what could that look like? And so I did at the time what I thought all people who got into real estate did. I took 6 months to work on getting my license. And during that time, I worked on my business plan and my business strategy and my marketing plan and my budget. And I handled it really from the very beginning like a business. And of course, I say that tongue in cheek because that's not how a lot of us operate as we get into very opportunistic, hoping that mom or dad or a friend maybe is going to buy or sell something, and then we can turn that into something. From there, I joined a small independent there in Santa Monica. I had gone to the Mike Ferry events leading up to that. So I got on the phone my first day, started down the crisscross calling people, and got my first listing appointment within a couple of days. Got my first listing within a month, got my first sale within a few weeks. And from there, just being consistent and doing those same ideas year after year, day after day over time, putting my client's best interest first, I ended up becoming #1 in my shop within a matter of months, oddly, and within Santa Monica, right behind that, and in our MLS, and then ultimately at Sotheby's during my 9 years in real estate.
Wow, I'm sure all the old timers loved that you came in and took over #1 like that.
Oh yeah. Well, and the brand I was in, the old timers were definitely old timers. I have to be careful. Some of them are still doing business and maybe on this call. And I definitely learned some lessons from them. Sometimes the lessons I learned from them was, a little tip or a trick that made me better at doing what I did. Unfortunately, a lot of what I learned from other people in my shop were the things that I shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't be standing around complaining about the market. I shouldn't be trying to sell people in my office real estate. I should be trying to go out and build relationships with people that could actually buy or sell something, and find people who were more positive and who had information to share to make me better. And again, it ultimately it seemed to work out pretty well.
I love that. Well, we know that you made it into corporate through the introduction from Sandra, but you zoomed right up. You came in as an EVP. Is that what I read on LinkedIn?
Yeah, my background, again, part of the reason I got into real estate, if I'm being very frank, was I had been a public speaker for a while in my life. I had burned out. I didn't particularly like what I was speaking about as a subject. And Deborah, I know you've done a lot of public speaking, and you know probably what it's like to be on stage and selling a message that sometimes that maybe is not completely authentic to you. And then you know what it's like to obviously be doing what you're doing today, where it's very authentic. And there's a big difference in how you deliver, how you perform. I had done that. I was basically selling someone else's story, not my own or not what I believed in, and I burned out on that. A friend of mine at the time, Tommy Hopkins, who was for a lot of us old timers, is one of the gurus of way back. I'd called him and said, I'm not loving this anymore. I've got to figure out what I'm doing. I'm here in Santa Monica. I don't have a job now. I don't have what I want to do. Tommy was the one that said, why don't you go see my friend Mike Ferry, watch what he does, start your real estate business, be a real estate agent for a couple of years, and then turn yourself into the next generation of a Mike Ferry or a Brian Buffini. So that was kind of the route I was going.
Interesting.
However, again, life got in the way, and I was actually doing really, really well selling real estate. And why would I leave this very lucrative business that I'm enjoying and living my dream to start a business to hopefully maybe someday get to that level as a speaker? Over the 9 years I sold, it was always gnawing at me that I wanted to go down that route. I wanted to be, Mike or Brian or one of the other people out there on the circuit. As I was coming to the end of my career selling, knowing that that's where I wanted to go, again, Sandra introduced me to the head of the California operations back at that time, and he was super charismatic. Sandra was already madly in love with the brand. And I was like, well, this could be an interesting opportunity. So I joined Engel Völkers originally. I think the title was EVP or head of real estate, but the job was basically to work with our franchisees in California and to coach them and coach some of the agents. And I thought, well, this could be a perfect gig. I'll do this for a year. And while I'm doing that, I'll start working on my new business, which will be coming back out as the next Brian Buffini or whatever the case it was going to be. Once again, life got in the way, and I fell madly in love with the brand and what was going on. And there was a need for someone to do what I was doing at the time, which allowed me then to ultimately leave the brand for a brief moment in time when Christian Völkers called and said, let's talk. And he said, what is it that we're doing right? What is it we're not doing right? And do you want to come in and take the things that Sandra Miller, who was a top agent globally for us, remains a top agent globally, but at that time was the first top agent globally from the United States, and to take all of that and to put it into play. And ultimately, there's a lot of very persuasive people in this brand, I'll just say that, decided that I would not only stay with the brand, but I would move to New York and become the COO at the time. So I moved to New York in late 2011, early 2012 to become the COO.
Wow. I love this story. This is so good.
It was a good time. It really was.
Yeah. We were at the time when I moved to New York, we were a brand with about 275 advisors. We had about 25 shops. And we had the extreme both ends. You had the Sandra Miller on one side working with billionaire clients and doing great developments, but our average advisor at the time was actually below the National Association of Realtors average agent. So we weren't consistent. We didn't have a consistent vision. for who we were. We weren't really aligning with the global vision of this brand in the US. And so that was the opportunity, with a lot of prompting again back from Sandra, as to what we could be and what if we became the brand that we were known for being in the rest of the world. What if we raised that bar in this industry? What if we built a brand that was for people who had, who were very different in the way we saw the world, but very similar in the way we saw this industry and the way things could be. And so with all of that, I moved to New York, and that's been, oh my gosh, well, that was again December 30th, 2011 is when I showed up here, and that was only going to be
so
for a
mad
couple
at
of years.
me. He was so mad at me in the first snowstorm. Oh man, I didn't think I'd ever live that down.
I called Sandra a few times and might have said a few things that maybe weren't not as kind. I apologize now, Sandra. During those first years, we had a lot of work to do.
It's so funny because as Anthony says, I got him out of the local competition, but I really could envision him leading this company to where it is today. And so that was my whole goal from the initial introduction, because if Engel Völkers failed in the US, that meant I failed, or I chose a wrong brand. So it was absolutely in my own best interest to get someone who can lead the company and take it where I knew it could go with the right leadership. And Anthony has, blown away all expectations. And you said what it was when it started, Anthony, but what are our stats now?
Oh yeah, we're 6,000 advisors strong in the Americas. We're 300 shops in the Americas, and our average advisor is doing about $250,000 a year in production. So we're definitely on the other side of that place. We know what we are today. We know who we are today. And what I love about this brand, and I'm not saying others don't, but for the most part, this is not the way it works. Typically, you've got a great idea and a great culture and a great vision when the brand begins. But as you grow, it seems almost natural that organically it starts to move away from that vision. You start to lose what it was that you were created to be. There's something very special about this brand, that we actually become more and more of who we say we are and who we want to be every day. So we actually get closer to being what the ultimate vision is, instead of finding ourselves losing that original vision or diluting that original vision over time. So yeah,
and that's not easy.
Well.
That took hard work. It takes constant vigilance and hard work on your behalf, Anthony, and your staff, and who you've hired and who is leading this company, and the licensed partners you're bringing in. So hats off to you. Just to ask a question that's on all of our minds. So we love stories about how mentorship impacts careers. And I know you've had some great mentors in your time. What is your most treasured advice from or experience you had with a mentor?
That's a good one. I've always said this, and I don't mean this with any arrogance. I have found very few people in my life who I aspired to be more like, or that I really felt were role models that I wanted to emulate. I might find something about someone, whether it was a corporate person like a Jack Welch or a Lee Iacocca, I'm definitely dating myself, or an entertainer or something like that. But ultimately, there were very few people that I thought, if I could be more like that. And so I'm going to go two completely different directions. And since it is Fierce was it Fierce Female Friday?
Yes, we love our alliterations around here.
I'm embarrassed that I'm going to tell you this, but Deborah, only you could get me to say these kinds of things on the recorded portion. I'm a huge Oprah fan. I met Oprah when she was just getting started in Chicago. She came to St. Louis, where I used to live, and she hosted our 4th of July. It was the ABC 4th of July celebration, around the United States, but it was done live from St. Louis. And I got to work with Oprah, and she was already it. She was already had her show had just been picked up to go national. She was not what she became, but the it factor was there, and the way she treated all of us. And for me, again, I'm a farm boy. To be around a person who was on national television and had people around her, and to see how she treated people and how she worked, and then to watch kind of who she was and how she was, authentic and she didn't always make people happy, and she wasn't like everyone else who was doing the job. She was a big role model for me. So she wasn't a mentor, but she was definitely somebody that I really just kind of aspired to be. Or to be more like. Another person, I mentioned Tommy Hopkins. Tommy Hopkins, I sold cars for a while in my one of my entrepreneurial pieces in the back. And when I saw Tommy Hopkins on stage, he wasn't what I normally seen on stage. He was someone who could make a mistake. He could stutter a little bit. He could fumble on some words. He could be very dynamic and jump up and down, but he could also make you tear up. I loved everything about the way he operated. So again, not a mentor, but maybe more of a role model. Probably the closest mentor I ever have really had. And I would put Christian Völkers, by the way, in the list of people that I love the sparring and the conversations about real estate, what it is, where it's going, how you succeed in this business, how you remain relevant or become relevant, because I think relevancy is something we're all dealing with right now. But Alan Long, who was the owner of DBL Realtors on the West Side in Santa Monica, and all the different shops that were eventually bought out by Sotheby's, which is how I became a Sotheby's agent. He created a culture that was just absolutely amazing. We were all devastated when our DBL, our Tiffany blue signs came down and we became Sotheby's. And ultimately it was a great thing, but we knew that was Camelot and the end of Camelot. And I've told him before that Camelot that he created for those 750 of us in Santa Monica was a very special time. And it was the way he was selective of the people he brought in. It was the way he managed by being caring, but also being candid with what was right and what was wrong. He had higher standards for all of us. He lived to those same high standards. He was willing to do anything that he asked us to do. And we created a friendship, and then ultimately, but I would say Alan Long would be the one that was the closest to a mentor, and one of the few people that I really said, yeah, if I can be more like that, I'd be very happy in my life and my career. I told you I don't do short answers, Deborah. I'm so sorry.
I love that. No, I think that's so great. I love the picture that you're painting here, and that that all of these people who are a little slice of who you are, right? I mean, I think that's what part of being a spiritual being, having a human experience is all about, right? Is finding those people we've got those sacred contracts with and taking a little with us. So it's June, it's Pride Month. Whoop, whoop. And we love to talk about being allies in this community. Maybe co-conspirators in some way, shape, or form, but allyship is, the buzzword around that. And, I have been seeing this idea and these conversations around being an actionable ally, right? Not just a social media ally or whatever. And to clarify for those of you who are like, what is this term ally? An ally is anyone who supports or empowers another person or group. And so I'm pretty confident. I can say with near 100% confidence that if you're in the WomanUP community, you are an ally. And we know that ultimately everyone has the ability to be one and use their privilege to support someone whose voice or experience might be otherwise stifled. So what does true allyship look like in action and in your world, Anthony? And how can we kind of step it up in our own communities? What do you got for us on that?
That's I saw that you might go down this road in some of the notes, and it's an interesting topic for me, because if I'm being very honest, I will be. I grew up in Missouri. If people on the call don't know, I happen to be a gay man. But I grew up in Missouri at a time when you certainly didn't admit it if you were, and you didn't a lot of times even admit it to yourself. So for a good part of my life, I hid who I was under fear that I could actually be hurt, which was a real challenge. And that's still kind of how I came up in the world. So as I became, as I was in business in St. Louis, I wasn't I wasn't me. No, I wasn't my authentic self in any way. When I moved to Santa Monica, I made the choice that I was going to finally be. It was a safe space. I was going to finally be who I was. And what I mean by that is I wasn't going to hide it, but I certainly didn't promote it either. I was worried that maybe a client wouldn't choose me if they knew that's who I was, or maybe somebody would see me in a way that is not the way I wanted to be seen. And that's definitely kind of who I've always been in my life. But it was interesting. Sean and I were married on the first day that we could be legally married in the state of California. And that happened to be our 20th anniversary. So it just worked out beautifully. We could keep the same anniversary. I didn't have to learn a new anniversary, and we could be legally married. Right after we were married, of course, there was that movement to annul all the marriages in our community and to change the laws. And I had never been an activist. And in all honesty, I don't even know that I, as a gay man, was an ally to my community. I was just me trying to survive and do my things. But the idea that this thing that didn't even mean that, we did it because it had some tax ramifications. We thought it was a cool way to celebrate our anniversary. We were basically married in the way we thought we could be married. We were domestic partners and all of those things. But when somebody when we stood on the beach in Malibu and we said our vows and had all of our friends around us, by the way, 95% of them being allies, people who were straight, half of them didn't know we were gay until they were invited to our wedding. All of a sudden, that moment meant something to us. And the fact that all of those people around us were there because of us, not because of our sexuality, not because of anything else. And then the idea that someone was going to try to take that away from us, that required some action on my part. And so that was really when I started becoming even a little bit of an activist for my own community. But still kind of cautious about it, always kind of concerned about where it was going to go. So I got to know allies after that, because again, even though people didn't seem to be, they didn't mind the fact that I was gay, now I had kind of come out to my entire client base who was at my wedding. And that was really an interesting experience for me. So ultimately, I will even go fast forward, as I joined this brand, as I was about to sign my contract, I looked over at Engel Völkers, and this is a true story. I've told it before. And I put my pen down and said, I have to tell you this, because you just have to know who I am. I'm gay and I'm married to my husband, Sean. And he looked at me with this confusion on his face. And I didn't know what that confusion was. It was literally, he didn't know why I was telling him. He's like, should we invite him to dinner? I mean, it was just such an interesting moment in my time. And so to me, part of, I think, being an ally is first of all, just being in that mindset of it is what it is and you are who you are, and understanding that. And if you don't understand, educating yourself and asking some questions. And, I'm trying to do this with other communities and I'm trying to understand better. But then ultimately it's the old adage of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. How would you want to be treated? How do you want to be treated? And then doing what you can to help, as you said, empower others to be who they are and to live the life that they should live. And to me, it's that simple. Just do the right thing and help other people do and be who they are and what they want to do. And just come from a good place. We always talk about, for a long time, it was about tolerance. Tolerance is not what being an ally is.
No.
Total acceptance is what it's all about. And I think, to me, it starts with that. And then from there, I think you have to decide what that means. It does mean maybe standing up in a conversation when that person's not in the room and saying, come on, people, are we really making that joke? Are we really having this conversation? When no one else is paying attention, how are you acting? But I probably not the most eloquent answer.
No,
to me, it's still a little bit of a challenge, because I think I've always been an ally. But I found out during the time of during COVID mid-year, when the Asian community was being attacked because of the virus, when the Muslim community was being attacked, when the George Floyd murder took place, when our LGBTQ community blew up in our alliance and everything, the Negerup, all of those things were happening.
Yes.
We put out an email here to our group, and I had so many favorable comments come back that we took a position. But on the other hand, I had a lot of comments that said that I was tone deaf. And it was really interesting because I called every one of those people and spoke to them about why they felt that I was tone deaf, or we were tone deaf, or we weren't doing enough. And it was really interesting to hear all of those perspectives. And I think that's part of being an ally, is trying to understand where other people are coming from, and then standing up and trying to make a difference, and hopefully a positive difference. But I don't think it's that complicated. At least for me, it's not.
No, you're not. And you've said there's a couple of things here that I want to make sure that we highlight from what you said that is so important. I think a lot of times when we're talking about allyship or being an ally or a co-conspirator, it's those who are in a place of privilege. It's not those who are in that community who
Right.
are asking to take action, right? I mean, obviously, if you're in that community and you want to take action, great, but that you are part of it, right? Versus the allyship. And inside WomanUP, right, that looks like anyone who does not identify as female, right? And so, and even inside there, we have a hierarchy. White women have far more privilege than women of color inside business structures. And so we all have varying degrees of ability to be an ally for others. I love how you share the authenticity of it, right? Because the same thing really does happen inside women in leadership environments, right? Especially women who grew up in leadership in the 80s. They were taught to wear the big shoulder pads and show up with their masculine energy front and center. And they, even if they were, wanted to paint their nails bubblegum pink or wear long curly hair, they weren't, because they couldn't, or they didn't feel they could. And so I think we've come a long way in certain areas, but I think the reminder is the look around the room, right? Stand up and not worry about the social capital you might lose for speaking up, because doesn't it feel so good when you say, really?
It does.
Are we making that joke?
But it's not easy. It's not easy, because what if that person is the person that's the next client that you're trying to work with? What if? And I think we play those games in our heads. I did that a lot. I got to a point in my real estate career where I would be very sincere, but I'm not the right agent for you. I'm not the right person. I know somebody who might be great, but I'm not going to be able to serve you. And that was very empowering to be there. But when I started my career, I couldn't say no. I wanted those deals. What I learned over time is I could say no to deals, and it gave me a lot more freedom and time to find the deals that I wanted to do and work with the people I wanted to work with. But I think it takes a while to learn that in life too. You can do the same thing with friendships and relationships and colleagues and all of those things. But I do think you have to be an ally for your own. I mean, I get what your point about if you're in the community, you're not really an ally for that community. But I think to some extent, I was in my community and I was not an ally in my own community. So I had to start with identifying as an ally for my own community. And then I think because I did that, I put my mask on first. Then I was able to be stronger to help be more of an ally for other communities. And now I do feel like I'm a strong ally for other communities. I've always had a lot of strong, fierce women around me, so I've always been an ally for this community. But as I've learned so much from this position, which is a privilege for me, is I've met so many amazing people from different walks of life now, and I understand, or try to understand as best I can, the journey that they've been on and why they see the world the way they see the world. And it makes it a lot easier just by asking a lot of questions to figure out how to be that ally, how to do the right thing, or try to do the right thing. And by the way, part of it, reason I think sometimes it's tough to be an ally is because we're scared we're going to screw it up. And I don't know about you all, but I'm human. I've screwed it up a few times. But the fact is, it's where your heart is, and the community you're standing up for, they will see that. They'll figure that out.
They'll feel the intention. And I would be so bold, Anthony, as to say you actually became a champion for yourself, an ally to yourself.
No, absolutely.
That's so beautiful. That's a great reminder, right? Everyone who's here with us today or listening on the podcast, right? It's like, are you your own ally? Are you your own champion, right?
And by the way, I have to admit, I would love to say that I had my own personal development and I figured that out on my own. But I will tell you, I think Caitlin is on this call. Caitlin Castellano, our head of marketing here. She's the one that actually got us to join the LGBTQ organization. She's the one that got me to go on stage and tell my authentic story. I went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to be the gay CEO. And frankly, I was wrong. I was wrong because after I did that, it maybe closed 3 or 4 doors, but it opened so many doors. And I had so many people come up to me and say, emotionally, that was so important to me. It was nice to hear that you can be you and be what you're doing, which means I can be me and do what I'm doing and what I want to do. And as I heard that story over and over, and I still hear people tell me that from the story that I told 4, 5, 6 years ago, I don't know what it was now. But again, I still needed Caitlin to kind of kick me in the butt and say, get out there and tell that damn story.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Maybe closer to 8 years ago, Anthony. It was a while.
Has it been that long? I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Time is flying. All right, next question before we run out of time.
I told you I don't give short answers. I apologize.
We love your answers, Anthony. You're the best. As you look back, what is a powerful lesson you have learned leading E&V?
I think it kind of piggybacks on what we were just talking about. This is a big brand. We're an international brand. There's a lot of people in this brand who want the exact same thing. We want to take great care of our clients. We want to grow our businesses. We want to live our best life. But we don't see the world the same way. Some of us are red and some of us are blue. Some of us are tall and some of us are short. Some of us are male, some of us are female. And that list goes on and on and on. And I think this is a lesson probably that it would be nice if all of us at least tried to learn and really, and I'm not usually a person who preaches, but I think it's important that we do listen to all the perspectives and we do really try to understand, why does somebody think the way they think? Maybe we will convince them to be more aligned with what we think. Maybe they'll convince us, and we should be open-minded to that, to think more the way they think. I had to start with Christian Völkers in that story with this brand. The brand that we are in the rest of the world is the brand we are here, but we work differently. And it took a lot of trying to understand. I came from Sotheby's. At first, I tried to make us into Sotheby's. To me, that was a luxury brand. But that's not who we are. And I had to be able to listen to Christian and hear his vision and understand what he thought this brand should be and go back and forth. And I've done that now with all these other aspects of it. So to me, the biggest lesson is, listen, truly listen, try to understand, share your story, your vision, your ideas, your ideals as to what you believe, but also be open-minded to others and be willing to change. I mean, it's almost like this, in politics, you always hear, oh, they're a flip-flopper. Well, no, they just evolve their thoughts. And I think that's okay. That's human. It's okay to evolve what we think. The world changes, we change. So let our thoughts change. So maybe that's a little on the nose, but to me, it's that being more open-minded, be more, really attempt to listen and understand other people's perspective. If there was a part B to that, it would be the importance of being relevant. I think in this industry, this is something that all the brands are working on. I think it's what all of us who are advisors are working on. I think it's what brokers are working on, is how do we either become relevant, and if we are relevant, how do we stay relevant and become even more relevant over time? And I think that's the challenge that most of us have to work on right now. And so I don't know if that's a lesson that I've learned, but it's certainly an opinion that I have right now, or a focus that I have right now, is how do we do that in the world? And by the way, I also know another big one, I don't have to be relevant. We don't have to be relevant to everyone. Yeah. We only need to be relevant to the people we want to be relevant to. And that's the part, when we talk about this brand, we have our core values of competence, exclusivity, and passion. And that exclusivity is the one that always gets us in trouble. We are a very inclusive brand. We've got people from all walks of life all over the world, and I love that. but we're also not for everyone. And that's okay. We don't need to try to be the right thing for everyone on the planet. We just need to be the right thing for our clients and for the people who want to be part of this brand. And that's perfectly fine. And if that's 5% or 10% of the clients and 5% or 10% of the advisors out there, there's plenty of success that can be had just in that space. And the disruptors and all the others out there, the discount brokers, they can be out there too, and they can have the other 80% or whatever that is. And that's a big lesson for me as well.
I love it. You're getting amens and claps and hands.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes,
good.
yes. So you are speaking good word to this community.
I probably need to see. I'll have to ask you to send me over the
I will definitely.
I don't see the chat right now.
Yeah,
I just see you in all your glory and Sandra in all of her glory when she's up on the screen.
Yeah, it's interesting, the words that you're using. So authenticity is a word that you've used, throughout today. Community, communication, collaboration, right? This idea of truly being who we are and listening before we speak, right? Listening to to the needs. These are all words that are woven deeply into our community. So we are at the point where we are at final words of wisdom.
Oh my gosh,
but before
that's so fast.
I know it does, right? But of course we're going to do the off the record, so it's not over. It's just the recorded part. So
I'm still nervous about the not recorded. I feel protected by the idea that it's being recorded, so I don't know.
It's so funny. Do you have a book or a podcast that you just you tell everyone about it? Do you have a favorite or two that you could share with us? I
want to be cooler and say a podcast. I'm trying so hard. Our team's been trying to get me to actually do a podcast, and I still haven't done that yet either. There probably, there's a few books out there, Who Moved My Cheese and some others. But the one that probably has always resonated with me the most, and it's been out for a long time, by Michael Ruiz, is The Four Agreements. I love that book. I love the Four Agreements. I like the way the story is told. And I read it the first time at a time that it was really important to me because I was blaming a lot of other people and realizing that it wasn't about them. It was all about me, and I needed to figure that out. And the Four Agreements helped me get over that little hurdle in my life of realizing that everyone else was just doing the best they could at the time too. And maybe it benefited me and maybe it didn't benefit, but ultimately, get over it and move on. But also that words are important, and they can help or they can hurt, unintentionally or intentionally. Always doing your best. Don't assume about others people. So yeah, the Four Agreements would be the one I highly recommend. And I used to give it to people all of the time. The Go-Giver is also one of, I've probably given more copies of the Go-Giver out to people. I think for a while I had single-handedly, I think personally bought 1,000 copies of it and given it out over the years. So the Go-Giver. So Who Moved My Cheese, the Go-Giver, and the Four Agreements. Four Agreements being the most impactful for me.
I love that. Okay.
And just so you know, I have read a book in the last 10 years. Those are all old books, but those are the ones that I've still just really resonate with me.
Well, we'll get you a list of some of the books that our community has also shared that, by the way, are written by women, because we love to talk about women authors around here. But I think all three of those are fantastic. I actually have a copy of the Four Agreements up here on the shelf.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's a pretty common one around.
You're right. None of those books are written by women though. Oh, damn. I should have been ready. I should have had one. But
No. This is not. We don't want to steer you. Steering isn't a good thing inside real estate. It's always good to hear what's on your heart. Okay, so anything before we turn off the recording that you want to speak over the community?
I don't. I mean, I think I've said what I think. Again, the high points here are, trying to be your authentic self, be an ally for yourself or a champion for yourself first, before, and then eventually be a champion or an ally for others. I think that's just a good way to live. And I think again, there is a reciprocal aspect to that. When you're standing up and fighting for others, it's amazing what does come back towards you. I think in this business, if it's about this business, find a plan, any plan, and stick with it. Make sure it's built. I always say, you don't want to build your castle on rented land. So if you're buying all of your leads, if you've got other people doing all of your business, and you can be replaced, or they can all be replaced, then you're probably doing something wrong. Build something that requires you, that makes you relevant, and then do that consistently over time, and you can be very successful. At least that was my story. But no, I think we've hit all the high points.
I love it. I love it. That's a great synopsis. All right. So for those of you who are here with us live, remember, hold tight. For those of you listening to the replay, if you want to hear what's going to happen next time, you got to stay, you got to come to visit us live here on the show. We would love for everyone who is listening, though, to head on over to IamWomanUp.com, check out the conference, buy your tickets, reserve your room. Of course, you're going to see on their add-on tickets, the Mondavi sisters are coming for a wine tasting on the 30th. Get your tickets for that, because that always sells out. And Alicia is so excited that we're going to be in person again. I'm sure she's cooking up something amazing for us. We are working on a sans alcohol event as well, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the soirees, the one-on-one conversations, the solo talks, the keynotes, the group conversations. We're going to do lunches and breakfast. We're going to do brunches and circle ups. It's going to be 3 days of amazing wisdom, women, and wild, wild fun. So head on over to IamWomanUp.com and get yourself all of the details. And now, I'm shutting off the recording. Here we go.